Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest on the Indian trade deal talks, as there's been a surprising development. As India is kicking off its own general election campaign, it was thought, in fact it was stated, that Sunak had sort of missed the boat for an agreement until later this summer at least, but a delegation has apparently been in London this week. According to The Guardian, one of the things India is now demanding is exemption from the carbon tax for their products. Now, before I go over the politics, let's be clear, this would effectively render the entire point of the carbon tax moot. The carbon border adjustment mechanism, which the EU and the UK are both separately going to be applying, has essentially two purposes. The first is it's to move to a much lower carbon economy by applying additional import taxes to high carbon products. The second, of course, is the same reason anyone ever applies import taxes in the first place: to protect their own market from cheaper goods. If the EU and the UK are going to insist that their own businesses reduce the carbon cost of their manufacture, they obviously have to protect those businesses, at least in their own market, from competition from those who have lower standards. If the UK were to make a huge high carbon economy like India exempt, what would be the point? We'd just be screwing over our own manufacturers and not even decarbonising our economy anywhere near enough. But of course, Rishi Sunak doesn't care about the specifics of the deal. He just wants a deal so that his married family's business, Infosys, see their shares increase. I also wonder if there's a more nefarious strategy behind this proposal from the Indian government as well. So far, we suspect that the main sticking point is over visas. The UK doesn't have a great deal to offer India with trade talks other than enhanced mobility. India wants its citizens to have access to a special type of visa. When they come to the UK on a student visa, they want it to be enhanced to include an automatic 2-year extension after the end of their study to be able to live and work freely in the UK. Obviously, this is politically tricky for Sunak to sell to his party. They've gone so far around the bend over immigration that they're actually now restricting foreign students who spend a fortune in our economy and prop up our university system. The idea that Sunak can just breezily tell his MPs and voters to accept automatic visas which allow Indian students to stay in the country 2 years after they've been students with full settlement rights is sort of a little, or virtually full settlement rights, is fairly questionable. However, the Tories are really deeply in the pockets of the fossil fuel industry, and this proposal about the carbon tax sounds like an ideal way of screwing over Labour and benefiting fossil fuel companies. An exemption to the carbon tax, which a lot of the Tories which Sunak is trying to appease do not like anyway. That sounds like a big carrot to those people to me. And I suppose the main question is, could it work? There doesn't seem to be time to actually fully implement the India trade deal, as in ratify it. If Sunak comes to an agreement with Modi, assuming of course Modi wins the Indian general election, but that is widely believed, then it's just an agreement in principle. It takes a long time to ratify a trade agreement. I'm not sure Sunak would be able to ram it through quickly, especially if we consider the timing. Nothing can happen until after the Indian general elections anyway. We need to know who's in government. So the earliest the agreement could be reached is, say, June? There will then be reporting phases, then we're into summer. After summer, Parliament is generally only back for a few weeks before conference season. This is, of course, assuming conference season even takes place. If it doesn't, it's because he's called the election and that causes Parliament to be dissolved even earlier. I can't rule out the Tories getting the agreement or trying to get the agreement ratified unwisely quickly, but I'm not sure they can, especially with the immigration angle. Consider that some Tory MPs fear that a deal like that plays into the hands of Reform UK, and they're all worried about Reform UK. If Sunak cannot get Modi to drop the visa demands, I think he's going to struggle. And if Labour say that they won't ratify an agreement that works against their plans for a low carbon economy, to say nothing of screwing over what's left of our steel industry, then the deal won't happen anyway. And those Infosys shares, won't they just drop again straight afterwards? But the fact that Sunak is chasing so hard after this deal must mean one of two things. One, that he thinks he can get the deal ratified before the election. I'm not sure that's possible. So the second reason would be that for whatever reason, he's not bothered whether the deal actually happens or not, only that he gets an agreement before having to call the election. After all, if it were too late for Sunak to derive the benefit he wants from the deal, he would not be committing so much to discussions. So the question remains, is there a crossover on the Venn diagram for what the wider Conservative Party will accept and what the Indian government will accept? Can Sunak persuade Modi to drop the visa requirements in return for this carbon tax exemption? Or can he get his MPs to accept the visa requirements with the carbon tax exemption? Like, either way, Tory MPs would, of course, love the visa requirements to be dropped. They'd probably go for anything else that is part of this deal. But then how would Labour respond? Is there any point in the Indian government even pursuing this if Labour announced the same afternoon that they won't support that exemption if they win the election? India have been talking to Labour as well, as they know they'll ultimately be dealing with a Labour government very soon, if there's to be a deal at all. It's all very confusing and as a result quite worrying. Can the India trade deal be the way Sunak screws over his country one last time? Or is it just his final folly? The last time he runs into a dead end before having to face the electorate. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for further content and click the like button. You can also sign up for memberships if you'd like to support the channel further. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.